U5 Entertainment, U5 Worldwide. Big thanks to the fans, people that support us. U5 did it. U5. Is in this game, the place to be seen. And we got what it takes to keep the place jumping. Sipping up whatever's in your cup. No time for me, fucking we ain't here for head. We send it all.
What's going on, everybody?
I know you like my style, like how I take your style and switch it up. Set it off, we go hard until they cut the lights on and it's just swag on swag.
All right. Hope everyone's doing well today. This is Rated U5. And I wanted to do something a little bit different today and pay homage and observe and recognize the fact that we've lost quite a few members from both U5 crew as well as U5 Enterprises, the company that started way back in 2018. And yeah, I thought I wanted to go and share a little bit of the history of U5 crew in general, as well as the Enterprises, the art and entertainment company that started way back. And so, I know it's going to come to a point for most of us where we kind of reflect back on, how we lived our lives, and not only those that are still with us, fortunately, but those that we have lost. I thought it'd be great for me to go and cover, some of those that we did lose, unfortunately, and starting with some of our members. I'm just going to go down a list of those that we lost, and then perhaps I can come up with some photos or something to go and share with you of those that I'm mentioning. First one is Soan, S-O-A-N, Soan. And Soan was a member of U5 for a short period, granted. It was the early 90s, I believe it was early 90s when he was down with us. He was a rapper, performer, and I remember seeing him on stage with his brother Fira and others singing and performing in Queens. And so the next person I wanted to cover was Soni, also known as Danielle and Dom Gomez. And Soni was quite a character. Soni Danielle, he was one of the very first members in my chapter. And of course, you might not know, but I was the president of one of the chapters of U5, U5 standing for United 5. And so Soni was a character. He was a gentleman. He always called himself respectfully, respectful towards others. He was very excited about art, expressing himself and being down a local crew. At that point, it was still a local crew. I was just local. So Danielle is certainly missed, and as a matter of fact, he, along with Ruby Fernandez, was one of the reasons why I started the whole thing on and creating the U5 Enterprises, because I wanted to do something that would carry their name and their spirit forward. And of course, Ruby Fernandez being Slick. So Soni and Slick, it's kind of like where all this kind of began with the U5 Enterprises, which is distinct and separate from the U5 group. Going down the list, and I'm going to get back to most of these folks before I'm done here. But I wanted to say rest in peace to Soan, Soni and Slick, Ask, Zan, S.O., Show, Sire, spelled with an S. Da, Dover, Urban, Heck, HEC. Boy Victor, also known as XV5, EG, Libby, U5 Enterprises, Redemptka, also from U5 Enterprises. Our youngest members we most recently was Clean from U5 Enterprises. And even apart from our fellow human beings, we've also lost our beloved pets. Like Inky was one of the more prominent ones back in the days. You recall back in Bushwick, I'd go and take my little Inky figures all around the neighborhood. So let me see if I can go and share some of these images so I'll get an idea of who these people were, a little bit more about the product. All right, so on this photograph over here, they look so similar, Yura and his brother Soan, and I would venture to guess, probably guess with that, that Soan is this gentleman here in the middle, and hopefully I'm not mistaken, but certainly if not, then obviously it'd be the gentleman to the left, but they look so similar to two brothers. So rest in peace to Soan. And we've got Slick. Slick was a young guy, and for the short period where he had been writing, he's pretty well known in the graffiti community. OWA was, I believe, a crew that he had led out with Assault. And he also ran with a few other crews, such as the 501 crew and BT, which I believe is Bronx Team or Bronx Toughest. And of course, later on down the line, U5. I only met Ruben a couple times, and yeah, he was a young kid. He was a young kid, vibrant, very energetic, a little bit antsy, but it's unfortunate that we lost both he and Sony that evening, that day, and I believe it was actually um, Thanksgiving Day that they had purged. Well, here's Sony, one and only. Um, if you knew Sony, then he'd always say this phrase, if anything, yo R. He'd be like, yo R, if anything, and he kidded around and say, hey, why don't you go and start your own crew, IA crew, if anything. And Sonny was a character. I really missed him. I went to pay my respects to Sony years after his death, and I flew over to the Dominican Republic. And I'm glad I made that trip, and I look forward to getting back there to the Dominican Republic, paying my respects once again. I'm going to turn the camera back over to another angle while I pull up some other photographs. That's just some of my items that I have. Some of them are U5 material and merchandise. And I'm all about Americana and 80s era. Obviously, you probably able to go and see some items there that are from the 80s era, which I thoroughly enjoyed living in the 80s. Next photograph I'm going to pull up, get to it. Is asked Johnny. I knew Johnny for a long time as well. He came in probably about, I'd say about 1990, like when he got involved with U5. And we have a lot of cool stories, he and I. I did know, I did see his children when they were when they were babies, quite frankly. And so I can share this screen so you can see them. All right, so there's Johnny. And I don't know if this was the Williamsburg Bridge. It looks like it's the Williamsburg Bridge. It's not the Williamsburg or the Manhattan Bridge, but I think it might be the Williamsburg Bridge. Tall, lanky guy, wiry type of frame, very, very swift. Just like his tag style was very, very smooth. If I can share this image. I mean, it's kind of, I wouldn't say sloppy, but it was just very, very quick way of doing the ASP drops. So, yeah, Johnny could be up in my place. Down Wilson Avenue, coming upstairs, him. And another member he actually introduced to us that used to live, I believe, in the Bronx, came down to eventually meet me and some of the other U5 members. But yeah, I certainly do miss. Funny guy. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard him yelling and saying this phrase, and I don't know why he said it. Actually, I do. I'm gonna stop the share and change the camera angle. Appreciate you guys bearing with me as we navigate through this. And yeah, asked me like there was this cartoon back in the days of this cat, and I think it was a mouse as well, and I think it was Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse, and it was kind of like the theme music or the sound for that cartoon back in the days was like the Batman. For some reason, it kind of was similar to the Batman uh, show that they had on TV, whatnot. And this is back in the 80s. So Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse, and so there was this frog that was the nemesis for Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse, and he'd be like, he'd say something to the effect of, "Bushy cat, pop hand," and I don't know how Ass kind of remembered that, and he'd be walking with me down the block, and be like, "Bushy cat, pop hand." It's real loud, just he just be saying that just out of the blue. So if you've ever heard Asp say that and yell it, then that's where he got that from. He got that from that show, Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse. Just thought to let you know. All right, I'm gonna change the camera angle once again. I'm gonna flip over and maybe find another image for you guys to take a look at. Stand by. So the next person I wanted to touch upon was um, Ass writing partner at one point, and this gentleman also passed away. It's such a shame. And he wrote S O, and You know, Esso was a quiet character. He wasn't really animated like Ask was. Um, but let me share that image as well. This is Esso, and I don't know whether maybe there was his wife or fiance at that time, but uh, Esso was a character. He was more on the short side, so to speak, and quiet, but yeah, you know, if you messed around with Esso and you caught him on a bad day, he's gonna really lash out. Um, and you know, it's very important, guys, that you know, wherever you are in your life, that you take some time to go remember those that have gone on and passed on. Uh, we'll move on to the next person, who was another original U5 member. I think the first member I had in my in my team, chapter 3, was Arion. He rest in peace. I haven't even covered him yet. But when we get to Arion, he's dead. And this image is not too sharp, but see if you can make it out, and I'll tell you who he is. Hint is that he actually worked for transit, believe it or not. This guy here worked for transit. He wrote Zan, Z-A-N. So Zan was thing about Zan was that he was older than all of us coming on board. I was working in um, Big R supermarket at that time, and Zan was a couple years older than myself and others. I might have been close to the oldest person in U5 at that time, but Zan, who worked for the New York City Transit Authority, uh, and then he was a graffiti writer at the same time. That's kind of crazy. But he was instrumental, quite frankly, with a lot of the times we go out there and painting, doing our graph. And Zan used to write Bandit. Before he wrote Zan, he wrote Bandit, and he decided to change his name. And he chose Zan because back in the days, there was this show. I mean, everyone knows about the Saturday morning cartoons, and everyone was thrilled to get up on a Saturday and watch all these cartoons. And one of them was Super Friends. And Super Friends, there was this character that was one of the superheroes there. His name was Zan. I think he had a sister named Jane. I believe Zan and Jane, and they go and touch each other's hands with like a paw bump and whatnot, fist bump, and then they go and transform into an animal, or they transform into something related to water or ice or something to that effect. So that's where he got the nickname Zan. And on another episode, I'll talk about some of the incredible days we had out there, writing our names when we were rambunctious teenagers and whatnot back in the 80s. But David Ortiz, his name is David Ortiz. He was also a Chapter 3 member as well. So go back to the next photo. Change this camera angle for a sec. Right here, I've got an image of the newspapers. There was many newspapers that covered the story where Sonia and Slick passed away. Got a number of the original newspaper clippings. And photo up. And we lost so many folks. Now, for those who don't know, E5 actually started way back in 1987. 1987 is when E5 first started with the merging of five of our graffiti crews. I'll probably show you an image of the pre-E5 crews actually, because a lot of people ask, like, what is U5 made of? Like, who are a part of U5? So, show you. U5 was basically five graffiti crews in Brooklyn, New York that merged together. We had RSV, Risky Soul Vandals, that was the graffiti crew of Famer, and he lived in the south side of Brooklyn. I think it was the Ten Ike Projects, Ten Ike. Then you had NSK, which is Nonstop Kings or Nasty Street Kings or yeah, no, Nonstop Kings. That was GA. That was his crew. He was he was in Bushwick, going towards the borderline of Ridgewood, Queens, and Bushwick, Brooklyn. Then you had my crew, which was WWC. And if you look for the YouTube video with me interviewing GA, you'll see how WWC came about. But WWC stood for Riders with Class, and that was my crew. Those three crews. Then you had two other crews. You had Masters of Madness, and I believe that was the crew that Audi held. And then Kids in Control, KIC crew. And I believe that might have been one of it was Device's crew. But those are the five crews that merged and then became U5, United. Uh, back to the members. That's all right. So you guys have probably heard or seen this guy would have been for me one of the top writers and kings in our era, and if he had remained alive, who knows how far he would have gotten. And I got a couple images over here. I want to show a couple. Showing you this. So this is Show, SHOW. Now, my understanding is that uh, he had assumed leadership of the crew MSD when Rec passed away. But he also had his crew SDS, which I believe it stood for Show Beam Set. I've got another image, some of his artwork. One of the early trains. Like this might be one of the early train pieces. But here's MSD there. And I don't know what this says. But here's his throwing. Here's his SD throwing. Some other older throw ups beneath. I think this might be Go 4, Geo 4. I don't know what this is. So, show. Rest in peace, Hector. I think his last name was Blast. Then he had a gentleman that we went to Bushwick High School with. He wasn't really a graffiti writer per se. You know, he threw his name around here and there. Never went bombing with us, nothing like that. But he was a real guy. He was a really cool guy. He wound up moving down to Georgia, opened up a taxi cab service and business there, and unfortunately, he passed away. And his name was Sire D. I think his name was, I don't know if it was his nickname or his true name, Fletcher, but that's one photo of him. I got a photograph uh, with him and Niker. Let me share that with you guys. All right, so here's him with Niker. This is Niker U5, and here's Sire D. There's that one. All right, so I think that's it. All right, so this is Sire D, Fletcher, and you get the image with him and Niker. Also, two other images. All right, so here's Niker, former Army vet, and Sire D. Now, he had a taxi cab business down in Georgia, and I think it was called Mystical. Matter of fact, oh no, it's not Mystical, it's Magical. It was something similar to that, so it's Magical. So he had that taxi cab service down in Georgia. Rest in peace, Sire D. Sire D. What a cool character. All right. Now we going to another person here. Another well lost friends. Got a whole lot of folders I'm going through here, but all right. So, when U5 started the U5 Enterprises, we were able to go and start creating merchandise through our talents. And one of them was this lady named Susy, and she was good doing the nails, a nail beautician. She passed away. But Susy, she was from El Salvador. Yep. Yeah, Susy U5. We write her name with fives instead of S's. And she had a nail shop, and she was doing nail designs with U5 on the nail. She put designs with U5, complete with the U5 colors on the nails, which is pretty cool. So that's the U5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. 5. Let me go back up to the top here and cover someone most of you guys that wrote graffiti new. That is Arion. So yep. He's got this gigantic box of Pop Tarts, and it turns out that Pop Tarts are not even a healthy food to eat. I don't know how he got hooked on Pop Tarts, but I tell you what, I used to love Pop Tarts. Came out with all these different flavors. You have the strawberry and the cherry, and fudge and blueberry. Some of them had the frosting, some of them didn't have the frosting. And like, we were addicted to those things. Boy, oh boy, Ariana, boy, he was always Pop. He was probably one of the first members in U5 Chapter 3 as well. Might have been like number two, maybe the second person. But like the original members from my chapter were Arion, Niker, Zen, Soni, Jest, folks like that. So Arion was a character himself. I mean, he was like a little brother to a lot of the U5 members because he used to always have his back. He try to get him to be a little bit not aggressive, but just so he won't be a pushover in the neighborhood that we grew up in. So he coaxed him to be a little bit bolder and defend himself. Growing up in Bush, it was crazy sometimes. You had to defend yourself. Now, going into some of these other folks lost. Some of them are U5 members from the company. See if I can share my screen again. What's the next person? Move the camera in for a sec. When U5 started in 1987, our biggest period was between 1987 and 1989, with the most damage. And we were very, very, we were a hot crew. We were a hot crew, and we were on the tips of everyone's mouth. Everyone was talking about U5. And obviously, when the last trains were cleaned during the Mayor Koch administration, then we started to go our separate ways. I wanted to join the military and traveling, working abroad. Decided to go and start off U5 Enterprises. Started promoting artists. Became an artist myself. Lived with flamboyant and whatnot. Had a lot of fun with it. And one of the members, this one's an interesting one. She was a nice member. Her name was Redemptka. Redemptka, actually, she had worked in the cafeteria. Here's a photo of she and I, probably at a club, ready to either perform or watch some of our other U5 entertainment artists perform. Wherever I went and branched off and gained members of artists into U5, and then we go and promote them, or we're just a huge network of artists globally. And, and I can talk about that in another video. We'll talk more about World U5 and what that means. But Redemptka here, she used to work in the cafeteria at the American Embassy um, in Rwanda. And when we started getting big in Rwanda and getting all these different artists, people were so excited about being down with U5 Enterprises, U5 the crew. They weren't graffiti artists, they were artists, fashion designers, painters, people that were just interested in being around artists. And that's for them. Then uh, one of the youngest members passed away not too long ago, recently. Just a young girl from Rwanda. Now, in Rwanda, where I work, we go. I actually put together these annual events, and it was the event that I had put together was called Kids Day, U5 Kids Day. We started off the first U5 Kids Day was I believe it was 2014. I was still in Rwanda at that point, but one of the children there, her name was Queenie U5, and she passed away recently. She was very young. She was not even, she was probably about 18 or 19 years old. Um, yeah, she was probably about 19 years old, very young there in Rwanda. That was the youngest person that we've lost in U5 per se. Obviously, she was not an artist, but she was, well, actually, she actually was a little bit of an artist. Let me share another photo with you. Yeah, she loved to color, she loved to paint. I think in this instance, they had face painting and she wanted to go and get face painted, so we made that happen. Just a kid being a kid being a kid. That's what it's all about. Cleaning U5. You notice that anyone that was a part of U5 crew or especially U5 Enterprise, you always put a U5 at the end of their name. So whatever the name was, we put a U5 right after it. And along that vein of young lost lives, got another one. This one kind of this one kind of infuriated me in a way because it was due to gun violence, and I believe that she passed away in Atlanta, in Georgia. Might have been Atlanta, Georgia. She was a young, vibrant young girl, cheerleader, very, very bright. She's the granddaughter of my bestie, Christy Five. If I can share this image. And her name was Libby. She was young as well when she passed away, 19, 20 years old, probably 19, due to gun violence. So we definitely certainly miss Libby. I remember when I learned what occurred to her that I just wanted to go out there and rock a big piece of it. do something for her because I felt so bad. I mean, maybe with this young, like I mentioned, cheerleader. Let me see if I can get another image up. Yeah, you see on the left hand side. Obviously, she was a very busy person. Be a cheerleader. You got to designate a lot of time for that. That's Libby. Then we had my best friend, and I knew this guy way back when I was still in the army, when I was a recruiter. I was a U.S. Army recruiter, and here comes this guy walks in, wants to join the military, and it didn't work out. He wasn't able to go and join, but we became friends nonetheless. And he was my very best friend, Victor Montalvo, and we missed this. This is way back in like the year 2000, and there are images with him and I. I was an E5 sergeant in the U.S. Army. There's Victor there. Victor was always around um, the military. He had joined the Navy, was in the Navy for a very short period, got out, wanted to come back in the Army, didn't work out. He got involved with a local cadet corps in Ridgewood, Queens, and there he mentored quite a lot of kids there. He mentored quite a lot of kids over there in that program. He called him XU5. I mean, he wasn't a writer, obviously, but he's a good friend. He knew a lot about E5 and tried to go and be a part of the E5 enterprise. That's Victor. Now, got a couple others here left. Although he was not U5, he was a U5 member per se, but just wanted to give shout out and an RIP to the son of Ass. May he rest in pain. I remember holding Matthew in my hands. He was just a little baby, and we miss Dexter absolutely. Urban U5. I don't believe I have a photograph of him, but he passed as well. And also Heck HEC U5. May he rest in peace. And I do have a photograph of Jason. So I'll share an image of Jason. Of course, most of you knew him as PG. All right, so here's Jason. And first of all, going back to Victor Montalvo, I was probably in Zimbabwe, Africa, when I found out that he was involved in a motorcycle accident, and he had been in a coma for a long time as well. He had been in a coma, came back out. Fortunately, he was still alive, and got to spend some time with him. With Jason, I was in Rwanda when I found out he passed away. I had met Jason through show back in Bushwick. There was probably one or two times I met him with show on Jefferson Avenue back in the days. Never went bombing with him. Never went piecing with him. Nothing like that. Just met him, introduced, and that was really it. But he did become a member of GA Chapter 4. And he put up the coup here and there. But yeah, he got was all over the place. He's all over the place. I hope that at some point they hold another barbecue. I know they used to hold the barbecues in honor of his memory. So if they ever wind up having those again, then I'd certainly like to be there if I'm able to. So rest in peace to you. And last person I have shared with you guys. I don't have his photo of him, but I got his artwork and his drawing. This guy, he used to write Dover. Dover was a cool cat. And me, him, and C used to hang out. Me, him, CE, HD, and Chris U5. I remember we got together uh, to have dinner at a restaurant and had a good time with Dover. 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 And okay. All right. Last but not least, I think I've pretty much named everyone or showed a photograph, whatnot. But hopefully, I didn't miss anyone. Hopefully, we haven't lost anyone else aside from this long list. I think I've counted 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. 20 people, from my knowledge, that we've lost. But this is a photograph of Inky. That was my pet dog. I used to scribble Inky's likeness here and there. And I got the idea from it. There used to be this newspaper, I think it was the Daily News, and you have to look for a little man and a little dog in the cartoon. And so when I had Inky, I'd go and paint images of Inky all around the neighborhood. This Inky, this is the real Inky right here. And then Inky's companion was this plush dog was named Butch. But this was the Chihuahua. And I think that we even took Inky to the freights go painting one time. I'm gonna put some music back on, so got a little bit of background. All right. Singing now are the Hood Scholars, Philly Four Fingers, and Ivy. There was a couple artists I used to promote with U5 Enterprises. I hope they're doing fine. Philly Four Fingers and Ivy. And I believe that's Rad U5. So I hope that, for me, it was important for me to go and take some time out of my schedule to go and recognize the people that we lost. It's very important. For me, it's important. It matters. And I think that we all want to be remembered. That's what Graph was really all about. It was not just the camaraderie that we had as U5 members and then U5 enterprises. We had a huge network and we have folks all around the world with that. But I think it's really about being remembered and not forgotten. And, as busy as we get with our lives, there's always something that needs to be done. And we kind of lose sight of it. We kind of lose sight of just the human aspect of it, the human touch, which is remembrance. And that's what I believe U5 is all about, is the camaraderie that we had as U5 members, as a crew, as well as, as a company. And I hope that we're able to go and carry on that tradition as we have with some of our next generation. We finally got 2 or 3 generations now. So I've got a lot of cool stories to talk about in future videos, and I hope you appreciate, this video. And, if you are a family member or a friend of any of those folks that I talked about and covered during this segment, then give a family member a call. Give the living relative a phone call and just let them know, hey, I was just thinking about so and so. It makes a difference. So all for U5 crew, to all the presidents and all the members, and for U5 enterprises all around the world, peace. Take care of one another. And look forward to next year when we relaunch the company, U5 Enterprises. Look for U5 colon 2025 or U5 colon 25 for short. That's going to be the relaunch for U5, including merchandise, artwork, and who knows, maybe we get to do some walls together. Take care of yourself. Peace. You can go and send an email if you want. If you got some questions, you want to see something discussed and touched upon, then send an email to U5, the letter U, the number 5, kingdom at hotmail.com. That's U5kingdom at hotmail.com. This is Radio U5, the president of Chapter 3, Hellraisers of U5. Take care.